Hello, this is Gene. I'm going to do something new today. I'm going to do a response to a video I saw yesterday or the day before. It was from a YouTuber that I've been a subscriber for a long time. I like the guy. I think he's one of the most intelligent guys on the internet, and he usually has a good take, and he actually listens to both sides, and then he gives his own opinions on something. I think that he glossed off a few things I want to talk about. Again, this is not a hit against him. I think he, he's criminally undersubscribed. I say that. I've got less than 200 subscribers. He has 35,000. I think he should be a lot higher up there. And I'll put down the video in question, and please look at that, and then you can come back and look at my response. I don't have any editing software. I'm not going to sit there and say, said this and say that. I'm going to talk about his a couple of things that he said that I don't 100% agree with. And I want to say it from somebody who understands what the alt-right is supposed to be. Again, I've never really said per se that I'm an alt-right person, because I'm not really sure what that means. There are several tenets that you can talk about what the alt-right is, and I've talked about that on my channel, and those type of things I can support. Some of the outcomes of what they want to happen in the end, I'm not really sure that I can get behind, and I think that that's like the Achilles heel of the alt-right when we're talking about the ethno-state and things like that. It's very hard, especially in the United States, that we'll ever get to that type of position, and if we really ever wanted to do that anyway. Now, I expected something totally different from him, and maybe I didn't see when all this stuff was going on. He did, I think, defend Rage After Storm after all the stuff that happened with that. But when we actually started to have discussions on race realism, I thought he was on the camp of the skeptics on this. I thought that he just was following down the pseudoscience of believing that every race is the same. And we saw it last night in the T-Mobile ad, and I'll try if I find that, and I'll put that below, because it is so hypocritical what that ad did, and it shows what the media is actually forcing down us to believe this. Now, personally, I think all races are different. I do, and I think that the scientific studies showing this. I'm talking about in a group. I'm not talking about individually. I mean, obviously, me and this guy could have a great conversation. In a lot of ways, he might have a higher IQ than me. He probably talks better than I do. Clearly, after my stroke, he would. His reasoning and his logic is clearly at the same level or above me. So, yes, he's a black man. That doesn't mean that he cannot have an higher IQ than me. Okay, but when we're talking about group dynamics, there are differences between the races. Nobody has a problem when we say that black people are more athletic than white people. I might say that just depends if you give enough white people the chance in the NFL, that maybe what you'd see is that it'd be similar. But I'm willing to say that on average that a black man, 16, 17-year-old, probably jumps maybe 3 or 4 inches higher than a white man. He might run a 4.5 compared to a 4.6 for a man. They're very small differences, but over the entire group, there's gap, and we see that, and why we see a lot more people who are black athletes are in at the professional levels. Now, in the game last night, we saw a lot of guys that are white that did very well. So there's more than just being athletic when it comes to playing sports, and I'm kind of getting off on a tangent here, but I'm just trying to say that nobody really cares anymore. Obviously, when Jimmy the Greek said something about black athletes, that he got ostracized for what he said, although he was 100% right about it. There are differences. Their bone structure is better. Their muscles twitch fibers a little bit more than the average. It is. So when we talk about differences between IQ, let's say, or the size of the brain or something like that, there are differences. And to his credit, he actually talks about this. He says, yes, there are differences between the races. And he says, but individually, we all can be different. And I thought he kind of got off tangent when he talked about this. He said, yeah, because just as individuals, we're all going to be different, so of course the races can be different. Now, maybe I looked at that differently than he was trying to get across. Maybe I just hear it right. I mean, I have issues after my stroke. Sometimes I hear things, and it's not exactly what the person says. I went back to it a couple times. I looked at it again. I think that's what he was trying to say. I could be 100% wrong here. Again, I'm not trying to go after him at all. I think he's a great person on the internet, and he's somebody that should be out there. The point I had is there are differences in the group dynamic, and when we get to IQ, that's one of those, the third whale that you can't talk about. So he basically said, yes, there clearly is differences, but then he kind of went off where he had to go, or maybe he didn't have to go, but he just kind of went this way. Instead of just saying, yeah, now I understand why the alt-right thinks this way, race realism, he said that, okay, we understand that, and they might have a claim to what they have to say. They have science on their side. Now, he's talking about why the skeptics lost to the alt-right. Well, it's kind of hard to win when the science is on what the alt-right is talking about. And he brought that up, and I think he did a really good job of talking about it. The point he said the silly outcomes that the alt-right wants to have, how they want the end goal to be of this movement. And he didn't really go into that. He didn't really say what that means and what he was talking about. I think I understand that. I think he thinks, and I think that he kind of hinted at it, because he said that Europe and the United States is a little different now. He says that there's a reason why that everybody's upset in Europe, because these refugees are coming in and they're raping women. Although we know a lot of them over there, the men are cut there, and they're not doing anything about it. But people are starting to wake up. But the United States were different. And I think he has the same idea that a lot of other people think, that this country was, at some point, was very multiculturalism. It wasn't. This is something that's really, in my lifetime, that this became more a multicultural society. Now, whether that's good or bad, that's not really into debate, per se. You know, you can say that a homogenous society is going to be better than a multicultural society. I think all the studies pretty much bear that out. But then people say, well, all the nationalist societies had all these type of more warmongering type of things too. The Japanese and the Germans. Everybody looks the same, and they did all this stuff, these atrocities that they did. Now, people don't understand, in 1945, the United States was pretty much the same way. We have this thing that we have about slavery, and this is something that we need to talk about, and we need to talk about the original sin of this country. And as a white, used to be a liberal, I thought that we owed everything we have to that original sin. And part of me still feels that way. But I can't change what's going on in the black community. They have to do it themselves. And so at some point I have to back off and let them do what they're going to do. I can't sit there and try to continually help them with money or anything like that. They have to do it for themselves. And so in the 40s, it was about 80 or 90% white in this country, about 8% black, and then difference of different things. It was a super majority, almost homogenous society in this country. And then things changed. And I know he knows all this, and I'm not going to try to explain to him what happened in 1965 and all that stuff. He understands all this stuff. So when he says that there's a difference, and there is a difference between what's going on in Europe and what's coming in the United States, and he thinks that how we are here in this country, that I think his idea is that we're falling under this ideal of America, this idea that we're going to look at the Constitution and we all can fall under the Constitution. Well, the problem is that still, even today, we have in-group preferences. You can just see this with Black Panther, and I don't know if he's come out and talked about this, but everybody that I see online, again, it's not everybody in the black community, clearly not everybody in the white community has this idea of being awoke when it comes to saving the white race. Okay, it's a very small minority of people that talks about this. So we know that there's a potential that millions and millions of people will be woken up to this and change the country back to where it should be. And in my own preference, it should be a super majority white country, because we built this country. Yeah, white people and black people helped building the stuff, maybe build some buildings, but this country was founded by white people, and that's not racist for saying it. Our founders, if you just want to say they're white nationalists or they're all racist because they were white, then fine, go ahead and say it. Then basically every country is the same way. So we talk about this, and we want to talk about the idea that there is a difference between Europe and the United States. And in Europe, it's something as we're in the United States and we're watching that, we see that it's coming here. And we want to stop it from coming here. And there's going to be this longing, let's say, or this thing that actually, when you're woke to thinking about your heritage and stuff, you say you want to defend them as well, and you don't want your kids to go through the same thing. I don't want to sit there and look on the street and say because if somebody's black that I think that he's my enemy. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to say that this country needs to be protected. We need to do things to a point. I think his point is that he thinks the outcome that the alt-right is talking about is silly. But then again, he realizes by saying that, yeah, there's a problem, that we're not replacing ourselves. But he doesn't like to say the word white genocide. But I think he thinks like I think. It's still all on us. It's not his he doesn't have to do anything about it. This is the white community has to do something about it ourselves. And you either do it by limit immigration from third world countries, to support having babies, to stop abortions, and I'm sure he'd be behind that. These things that would help raise up the white replacement rate and go from that. Okay, the idea that we're ever going to get an ethno-state, and this is the thing that I have to continually state, that I don't think it could happen. And I don't think it was something that would actually happen without millions of people dying. And I don't think it would happen like maybe that millennial woes, Colin Robertson, I think his name is, or Richard Spencer, that we're just going to say, you just go ahead and move over here, and everybody's going to get up, pick up their shit, and go somewhere else, even if we give them money. Or something like this. I mean, this is something that Hitler tried to do with the Jews. He said, here's money, get the fuck out of here, go to Israel, or Palestine, I think it was. And some of them did. A lot of them did. But people are going to, they think that's their homeland as well, so they're going to stay there. And people that were brought here that have ties to slavery, this is their homeland. I don't want to sit there and say that Africa is their homeland. So we talk about that and talk about the Black Panther and how everybody is like looking at this movie like it's indicative of how Africa would have been if the white man didn't colonize it. Let's just be realistic about it, okay? I'm going to watch the movie. It'll probably be a great movie, and I'll just go on with that. But anyway, the idea that people like Richard Spencer and Millennial Woes, as much as I listen to what they have to say, and I agree with some of it, there is no way we're not going to have blood shed. And there's no way at some point that all these white people all of a sudden are going to wake up to the point that they have enough votes in Congress to all of a sudden segregate us. Because it will destroy this myth of the melting pot that is the Americas. So, United States of America. It'll never happen. So the only way it would ever happen is, personally, it won't happen in my life, and I don't think it'll happen in his life, that if the white people become such a minority that the repression, the revenge oppression that would happen, that we see in South Africa now, that because when they probably will want to try to take your guns and stuff like that, you're going to see some little skirmishes that might end up going to a civil war, and at the end of all the fighting and all the hundreds of millions of people, millions would probably be killed. They have to come to a settlement, and when they have a settlement, they're going to say, okay, you move over here. Let's say we all the Northwest, and black people will be over here in the West, or the Southeast, and then the Hispanics will be in the Southwest. Talking about this, thinking that might be something that might actually happen in our country, having a discussion on it, doesn't make you racist. You just cannot sit there and just have your hands or head in the sand and thinking that there's not where we're going. Because unless there's going to be, the elites are just continually rule this country, and if that continually happens, and we're all going to be walking around like zombies and just being on debt our entire life, and just be working for the man our entire life, when people actually start waking up and they start seeing people that look like them are being oppressed, that people in their family are being oppressed, they're going to wake up, and other people are going to be waking up. And the question is what we do there. We try to say we're all multiculturalism, or do we have like that stupid-ass video from T-Mobile that says everybody's born equal? No, you're not, okay? You are not born equal. All you can try to do, especially if in the West, that you have opportunity that's given to you on basically on an equal platform. Some people will say, on the alt-right, will say that people of minorities have more freebies to go their ways. Well, I personally say that that might be true, but they also have obstacles because still in this society, we still look at you from the first time they see you. And the first thing you see is somebody's race. You do. Now, you try to get past it and say that I'm not going to judge that person on their race, only on the character, what they have. But, you know, it's just what it is. And it happens for all races. It's just not somebody that you're white that you do this. It doesn't matter. This is something that's so deep ingrained in us from the first time we were tribes moving out, fighting other tribes, that you, in the back of your mind, it's almost like seeing that spider. You know that you got to get away from it. Jesus Christ, it's only this big, and you're so worried about it. Or a snake, because in the back of your lizard brain, you knew that they could kill you when you were like growing. There's something that's there, and we are always going to have that type of thing with somebody that doesn't look like us. So the idea is, in a multicultural society, that everybody's going to look like a coffee color. That's going to stop racism. And that's all bullshit, too. It's all this suicidus, I can't say it, pseudoscience about multiculturalism. Because we will just look at that you have different eyes. You have the colored colors, but you have green eyes, let's say. And you'll be looked at maybe at a higher level. So there's still going to be hierarchy. And this is something that Peterson talks about. At the base level that we have this hierarchy that we're always going to be different, all right? And somebody's going to be at the top and somebody's going to be down below. Not everybody. You know, we want everybody to say individual rights. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to this and that, I don't think that open door is going to come to somebody that's not from your tribe. And we need to have this conversation now. We can all be kumbaya with each other, but it's just not going to happen. It's never happened in human history. And we're not all of a sudden going to change it like now. It's like socialism is going to work here now because it's never worked before, but we're going to do it the right way. We're going to do multiculturalism the right way, okay? But there's a way that you can exist together. And we can make that argument that the United States is a little different than Europe. Okay, it is. And the original sin was slavery in this country. So I have no issue with doing everything we can to make it better for black people. But we have and I mean nothing, to do with anybody from Mexico. We have nothing to do from people from the third world. We just have no reason to be dealing with any of this stuff. We should shut down immigration. We should deal with our own. We should celebrate both in the white and the black community. Stop abortions, unless there's always going to be limits, okay? But Jesus Christ, 20 weeks, and we're saying that we're somehow hurting women by this. Finland has it 12. The most feminist countries in the world is 12, 13, 14. Here in this country, we're crying because it's 20 weeks, and everybody's like, oh my God, we're going after women. No. The problem is that there's so much that it's all dividing this. So, getting back to what he said, and of course, this is what I do, and he'll probably watch this, and he's like, why did you just talk for 20 minutes? The point is this. He made things about the white genocide. And I want to make it 100% true here that he doesn't go far enough here. Do we blame anybody? Can we blame anybody else? No, not really. It really does come down to the white community. It does. It comes down to us, and we need to have more babies. We need to strip off this cultural Marxism, but we should also be able to name the Jew. We should be able to say that there is something behind it that's been pushed down our throat, and it just clearly was out there on TV last night. during that T-Mobile. This whole thing, this equality, is from the Frankfurt School that was run by Jewish people. Their mindset is, at the end of the day, they want to run everything, even though they'll never be the majority when it comes to population. But they're just going to make the blacks against the whites just fight each other. And this is the end. But now they got people from the third world coming in as well. And it's the same type of thing that they could just, this sounds so paranoid. And 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I said, Jesus Christ, Gene, what the fuck are you talking about? You got a tenfold hat on. No, but it's clearly there. And the thing is, those people on the left, and they're almost always on the left. Now, there are neoconservatives that are big fans of Jewish people in Israel that are on the right. Ben Shapiro, those guys like that. They all say great shit, but at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, they will definitely defend Israel over the United States. So we have this problem on the left, and it's out there. They put it online. They put it in their books. They put it in their textbooks at school. They just want to defame the creators of this country. And it has to be said, this country was made by white people. It's not racist to say it. It's facts. I mean, I could talk about things history that said certain things that's not really what happened, but the facts are clearly this. White people came from Europe. They colonized the country. They had their own laws. This country is 99.9% white. We had hundreds of thousands of people came from Africa. They mixed with many people that were white. Most of the Indians died over years, and they got smaller and smaller. Now, you can talk about that. You can say how bad we were with that, how bad we were against Japan Americans that were interned here in this country. A left person did that. It was a Democrat that interned Japanese Americans. The point I'm trying to make here is that all of these discussions need to happen. And personally, I think that he would have them on his channel. He would have that, and he would listen, and he might say at the end, you know what, I just don't agree with you. And I really thought that when I first saw his first one, and he said he was going to actually talk about the alt-right and why the skeptics couldn't beat the alt-right, that I thought I was going to have some sort of response that was going to be against what he had to say. But personally, I thought he was 95%. I'm with him on. I am. I think that he is just as awake as anybody else in the alt-right. I think he really understands all this stuff. But clearly he's a black man. He has his own preferences. There are what people would say on the feminist side is bias that you have. You're gonna try to protect what's you. You are. You still want to help everybody else. You almost that white liberal mindset. You want, I got to help you, and it'll make me feel better. Virtual signaling and all that shit. But I have no issue with what he had to say. I think that he didn't go far enough. I don't know why that is. It's similar to like Tree of Logic. She was all of a sudden, she was a darling of the alt-right. And then she couldn't deal with the fact that people questioned the Jewish people. Like they have nothing to do with any of this. And you know what? Fair enough. It's still down to us. All this stuff is down to us. Even today, 63% of the population is white. If we just wanted to have a vote based on anything that would be good for our race, let's say, we would dominate everything. We would get rid of immigration. We'd do all that stuff. But it's strange. The white man has the ability to have different opinions here. You don't really see that in other communities. And I don't know why that is, whether we're very easily be malleable, which I think we are. I think that we're very easily to be led to different types of things. Whereas the other races, maybe because they're minorities in this country, and they feel they have to be together, which I guess that makes sense. And I think if obviously we became a minority, that we might be the same way. Okay, maybe that's what that is. But still, it's all about group preferences. Even though you have great thinkers that are black out there, and I would say that he is one as well. I would definitely say that if he had the format and the money and stuff, that he could be I don't know if he's a Republican commentator. He definitely could, and he's a voice that needs to be seen. And the fact that he actually listens to what the alt-right is saying, and he's saying that there's factual basis by it. My issue is when he says that he doesn't really want to say the word white genocide, even though the statistics said that's basically what's happening. But at the same time, all I can say is it's us that are not doing what we have to do. So either we need to do it through the laws, or it's going to be a really bad thing. Probably around, not in my lifetime, probably around 2100 or so. It's going to be a bad time here. It's either going to be, we're going to see Europe become an entire Islamic union, let's say. The EU will be all Islamic, and it'll be a theocracy, and it'll be our biggest foe. And then in this country, we'll still be battling over racial issues that whoever's the minority at that time, and at that time the white people, will be saying, I'm being oppressed. Instead of either get under the idea of America, because this country, we don't have enough people on the left that believes in the America idea. Whatever that is, what you want to believe it the way it is. The people here right now that are citizens in this country, they all should be under the idea of America, that you're all citizens. And I've talked about this before I started going all the way down to discussing the alt-right. I was all about Americanism, and I still am. You're legal in this country. You're a citizen of this country. You need to be about this country. You shouldn't be about anybody else. I don't want to see you marching in the streets with Mexican flags when you have a citizenship in this country. If you don't like the country, and I hate to be an old man saying this, get the fuck out. You have to say that this country means something, that there are borders in this country, that it means something. And if it doesn't, then you don't need to be here. And it brings me back to that stupid ass video again from T-Mobile. You can be born anywhere and you can go anywhere you want to go. And what is that trying to say to everybody? Come here. And they don't want to do it. They just want everybody to come here to have their fucking phone. That's all this is. Yeah, they have, oh, I want to feel great. And, virtual signaling to everybody. And I'm a good white liberal. Or, if he's not, that, whatever, the pay gap. And, So, anyway, I said this was a response to him. This became something more. Because I can't stop myself from talking. So, anyway, overall, great video by him. Please watch it. To subscribe to his channel. Give him feedback on his video. I did. I don't think he probably watched it. Maybe he'll see this. I'll send it to him on Twitter. If he wants to watch it, he can. If he doesn't, whatever. He knows who I am. I've talked to him to DM. He's a Florida guy like me. I think we have most of the same common goals. I really do. I think that he understands what's going on. And I'm glad that he's talking about it from a rational type of perspective. Okay, thank you for watching. Have any comments, let me know, and we'll talk about it down there. You guys have a good day, and congrats to Philadelphia. Great movie, great game yesterday. I didn't watch all of it, just watched the end of it. Strange to see Brady not do it when he had at the end, but good for them. Nice to see that 4 guys from Florida State went to Philadelphia, and now they're Super Bowl champions. And also, they have the guy from Miami, their running back, went up there and got him a one as well. And also, kind of strange, and maybe he'll talk about this, God came up a lot in their post thing, and I watched it on NBC Sports Network, and they all talk about God. There's a big Christian faction in the team on the Eagles, and that was, I don't necessarily what I feel on that, but I like the idea that they looked at somebody bigger than themselves instead of just saying it's all individualism, and that makes me feel kind of good that maybe we still have that in some way in this country. All right, thank you for watching. You guys have a good day. I'll talk to you later.